Welcome back to another episode of Reels to Reels. Today we're going to be doing Dog Day Afternoon. My name is Lex. I use any pronouns.
My name is Ava. I also use any pronouns.
My name is Michaela. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Esther, and I also use she, her pronouns.
So, Dog Day Afternoon is a film about a criminal named Sonny Wardzik, who is done by Al Pacino, and he leads a bank robbery in Brooklyn, and it shows how things quickly start to go wrong. He leads it with his partner Sal Naturalil, John Cazale, and they're trying to desperately remain in control while everything is going wrong. And a media crisis develops over time, and the FBI arrives, creating even more tension. And gradually, Sonny's surprising motivations behind the robbery are revealed, and his standoff with law enforcement moves towards its inevitable end. And it's a whirlwind of things. And also, it's directed by Sidney Lumet. Just want to mention that.
Yeah, and very specifically regarding what we're talking about surrounding the movie is realism and naturalism in how the film was made.
Yeah. To start things off, I wanted to start it off by the fact that there was like barely any music in this entire film. There's music at the start, and I can't remember if there was at the end or not. I don't think there was.
So.
I think it was only at the start.
I think it was at the intro, yeah, and then
I think it was at the intro. And I wanted to start things off by I read an article called Gay Rights and the Reception of 1975, and it's by Anthony Macias. And the quote is Lumet said that he admitted scoring and Hollywood lighting as if you were watching a newsreel so that you never felt like it was a movie. And I thought that was a good quote, because he really did do that. Like, he didn't use any sound at all. And well, he used sound, but like not music. And like it just made it feel more investing as a movie, and it made it feel more realistic, because it didn't feel like it was like just some like normal like comedy crime movie that you would watch. It felt like a documentary, but it wasn't. It was a mockumentary. I think that's what they're called.
I feel like especially because it's based off like a true story of like a guy robbing and doing all this stuff for so they're not so question, you can leave this in. They're not so Sonny and Leon, are they officially married, or
yes.
is like okay
yes
yeah so okay, so doing all of that for his wife Leon, and I don't know if the names are changed in the movie, like to okay but having it feel like you're actually immersed, like you're really immersed, and it feels like as Professor quote put it, really real. I think like it makes sense, especially considering that it's based off of a true story, and the film clarifies that in the beginning, I believe.
I also think, one, I just wanted to go back to the sound for a second, and I also have a thought on what Lex just said, so bear with me for a second. One, regarding the sound, I think it's really interesting that it, in that moment, it's realism because it goes from diegetic to non-diegetic sound. Like, we're hearing the song and it's like everywhere, and then it's coming from the car radio. The audience and the people in the movie can hear it, so it fits with the IMR, which is the way Hollywood movies are filmed. And then going back to what Lex said, like, oh yes, something that's really interesting about the filming process is that Al Pacino and Sidney Lumet made the decision to not look at the newsreels from the actual crime.
Really?
They didn't want that to influence the performance that was given. So I think that's really interesting. Also, kind of bleeding into the newsreels. Also, I also have a quote that kind of leads into that about like this being a true crime. It's from an article titled "The Real Movie: Reenactment, Spectacle, and Recovery" in Pierre Hughes' The Third Memory. It's from the Journal of Cinema and Media and it was written by Ruth Erickson, and it talks a little bit about Dog Day was the quote is Dog Day Afternoon was widely praised by contemporary critics in part for its humanistic portrayal of criminals, and it goes on to talk about the real person John and how he was in jail at the time, so he had no say of like how he was portrayed in the film, but they tried to humanize him in a way that like there's a lot of, even like looking at more modern films, like obviously like there's a lot of Ted Bundy movies, so I'm just gonna use him as an example because there's so many about him. They create a character out of a real person, and I think that this film does a really good job of creating a very sympathetic and realistic version, but obviously that might not be how the actual person feels because they had no say of how they were portrayed. So I just think that's interesting and also kind of naturalistic, or falls into the naturalism category of like creating humans instead of creating characters in a way.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to what Michaela led with before, I thought that your quote had to do with lighting as well, right?
Yeah, it did. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna comment on that. I was really like not impressed, but I thought that it was definitely like a choice to make most of the lighting very natural, except for when they're obviously like inside the bank. But I mean, when they are inside the bank, it's very much like bank lighting, like that intense overhead light that everybody just hates and gives them a chronic headache, kind of like that. But also like as we see like when the day goes like by, we can see kind of like it getting darker outside, and then the scenes at night are like filmed at night, and like the scenes during the day, it's all very like natural lighting. So I think that adds to like, you're kind of like there, these people, are real in a sense. And I also think that like, just to piggyback off of that, I think that the whole like messiness of this entire film, I think that like even when there's non-messy elements like natural lighting or like stuff like that, like it's all going under the scope of naturalism, even if it's doing it in different ways. So I thought that was interesting, and how they made like that part of Brooklyn like seem really, really like realistic.
I also wanted to point out that like unlike Hollywood where they'll like make colors like way more saturated and brighter, and like even like the city just seems naturally more brighter and everything seems brighter. This film had a lot more neutral colors, which like really made it feel like more realistic, because like with Hollywood everything's like it's supposed to pop in your face. You're supposed to see like the ideal version of what you would imagine Brooklyn to be. Like it would be like very bright colors. But then here you're getting like the like the dim colors, and like nothing is like in your face popping trying to grab your attention. Everything's just as it is. And that really helps it feel more natural. But that I think that's more of like realistic.
Kind of going off of that, sorry Lex.
It's okay.
Kind of going off of that, I think it's really interesting. There's a couple of things that you guys said. One, I almost feel like they start out kind of saturated and progressively get more desaturated, because when they start, they're in suits and they're all dressed up, but then the air conditioning gets cut off, so they start sweating. So like they're no longer, when you're looking at them, they no longer look pretty, which is very unique to this film. Like I feel like even when there's like that stereotype of like women waking up in perfect makeup in films, but these people were like sweating and gross. But also I feel like a part of like what Esther was saying is Sidney Lumet is kind of known for not allowing improvisation into his films, but the majority of this film is improvised, but it was improvised in rehearsals and then added to the screenplay when the director was like, I like that improvisation. So I think that also helps with how natural the dialogue feels.
The dialogue feels very much like decided on a whim, which really helps it feel natural. Because like when you're having a casual conversation with somebody, you don't plan out your conversation before you go talk with somebody, unless it's like an interview or something. It just happens on a whim. And I don't think you really would plan a conversation when you're like robbing a bank.
Yeah.
So everything does feel like when things just start going south, it feels like all the dialogue just feels like something you would say like out of nowhere, because like you're like over anxious, you're don't know what's going on, you feel overwhelmed. And I just think like that was like a really evident part in the film, was just like so much dialogue where it just felt like they just pulled it out of nowhere and it made it feel not like a film and more natural.
Adding on to what you said, Ava, about like the costumes and like how they were taking it off. I feel like I guess it could start off as like realism, like with the suits and stuff, and then like as it gets hot and like we see them more like naturally, it's like more like naturalism. And I also didn't know that about the improvisation, like how like they would do it in rehearsals, because I wanted to mention like the scene where Sonny's holding the gun and he like drops it a little bit and like tries to like, I legitimately thought like that was just something that accidentally happened, like when they were recording it, and the director was like, oh, this is kind of funny, I'm gonna keep it in, because like it felt like real. Like I don't know, I would be awkward like that too if I was robbing a bank. I don't know.
I think that might have been like, I just think the dialogue was improvised on the rehearsal. I think physical stuff is probably more actually just happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I thought that was really funny, and I hope, like, I don't know if it was improv, but I really hope it was just something that like Al Pacino accidentally did and they were like, let's keep this in the film, because
I also feel like some of the dialogue felt a little clunky and awkward at times, but I feel like it was almost intentional. Like it was
like that's what helps it feel more natural, because it is clunky and it is messy.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just felt like I should point that out. Like even some of the improvised moments, I actually ironically think some of the improvised moments flow better than the non-improvised moments. Like the what country do you want to go to? Wyoming. That's not a country. That moment was improvised ahead of time, but there's these weird moments where it's almost never with Sonny. It's almost always with Sal and somebody else in the room. But I guess that's just Sal's character, and I might just be judging that actor too harshly. But
yeah, I agree. I think dialogue is like a huge part of the naturalism in this movie, and specifically going back to what Ava was saying before. I think that, you know, the whole from the very beginning, these bank robbers are messing everything up, and that is the point of their characters. They were not prepared for this. They are extremely unorganized, overwhelmed. They don't want to hurt anybody. Like they are just not the ideal, like really cool, badass bank robbers. They're the awkward kind of like, I'm just doing this for my wife, you know, like kind of just unprepared, like I'm just kind of thrusting myself into this without a plan. And so I think when they have awkward moments like that, it's supposed to add on to the like, oh, this is actually not perfect. And a lot of bank robberies like aren't perfect, but this is just playing that idea up a lot. And I also think the amount of cursing goes along with that, because like I don't know, I am from New York at one point in my life, not anymore, but I mean a lot of people do curse in every sentence there, but this almost felt like, oh my God, why is he throwing F-bombs left and right? Like this is crazy, but also like, you know, that's just him, that's just Sonny, or that's just Sal, or you know, whatever. And you know, they're in Brooklyn, so I feel like that kind of went along with the naturalism and like how messy everything is. But going back to like small elements like Lex was talking about with like the sweat and stuff like that, I think that like small details like that really add to it, because you know, like I feel like there are so many films that aren't consistent with like what they're saying. They'll be like, oh, the air conditioner broke, and then everybody will look perfect, as you were saying before, Ava. Like everybody will just look untouched, not sweating at all. And these people are like breaking a sweat. They're like fanning one, you know, like somebody has the security guard like has heart issues, like all of them have health issues, like people are almost passing out, they're hungry, they're thirsty, stuff like that. So I think that that definitely adds on to like just like how messy this actual situation would be.
I wanted to add on,
go ahead.
I just want to add on to what you said about dialogue. Because there is a lot of times where they're like swearing. He sweared a lot. And there was also other times when he used the same language a lot, which I don't see as often in Hollywood. It's like we see his like tics in like his vocabulary that he uses more often.
It's usually found like inappropriate to be cursing that much in a film, I feel like.
Yeah, but also there's like he has these sayings that he keeps saying again and again, like I'm fucking dying here, or like he'll say that like a lot, or just I'm dying. He says that a lot, especially to Leon and his other wife. Um, he said that to both of them, and also just to talk about those scenes quickly as well. You could see how different he acts to Leon, and then how differently he acts to his other wife.
Her name's Angie.
Yeah.
Angie, thank you. You can see the difference of how he reacts to Leon and how he reacts to Angie when they're talking. Because, like, Angie's just having a meltdown. It won't really talk with him. She's really talking at him. And then with Leon, they're talking back and forth and having a conversation. And both of those moments are very, very intimate moments. And I felt as if I was like another person on the phone call who shouldn't be there. I felt like I was one of those police officers who were like on the phone, like listening in on the phone. It felt like one of those moments because of how like raw the feelings were and how the dialogue didn't feel like like they were being extremely vulnerable. And I'm gonna break off from that just in a second. I'm gonna break off that for a second. Sorry, I'm all over the place. My mind's like crazy right now. Another thing he also said a lot, he would also say that he would use the word con a lot and being like, you're conning me, you're trying to con me. And like that's just another vocabulary that he used a lot, or you're not talking to me. And I just think the constant use of reusing the same vocabulary again and again is a very natural like a natural element to society, because like my friends and I will have like things that we'll say again and again, then we'll pick up on it, and then we'll keep seeing each other's things again and again and again. And that's just how humans naturally are. They'll have like this one saying or one word that they'll say constantly. And then you don't really see that as much in Hollywood films. At least I don't notice it that much.
I want to add on to what you said about like the conversation between Sonny and Leon. I have this quote from Chris R. Brown from the University of Sussex, and saying like it said that the director Lumet sought not only to make his like quote unquote freaky protagonist appear normal, he sought to make him appear natural. And I think that like that conversation, like there was like stuttering between them, like it felt like authentic. And I think in general, like as the quote said, like to make Sonny appear natural. The reason why this film is could be so naturalistic, especially, is because of the subject matter. Like this is like a LGBT, like there are queer characters in this film, and I think having the aspect of trying to make it seem like hyper real, kind of, especially at the time, and even now, like it's more progressive than it was back then, but there's still like a lot of issues with like there's still a lot of transphobia toward like men dating trans women and whatnot. And so to make this film such like this feels like a just real life like situation, it humanizes like these characters, and even people in the crowds like find out that Sonny is gay and they still support him. And like I think it's a message to the audience as well, like especially for the time.
Another
100%.
fact I think, sorry, this is a quick point. Another fact that I think is important to mention is just like he is not ashamed of being bisexual. Like never in the film is he ashamed of his sexuality. And I think that's very important because like in a Hollywood film or just like in any other film, really I feel like the person, if they were out like just like outed to everyone in like the world, they'd be ashamed and they'd be like, don't talk about my sexuality, stop talking about it, stop talking about how I'm gay or queer.
Like
They're
South
usually often villainized too, like
Yeah,
especially in older media.
yeah. And like Esther was saying, like Sal was like, no, don't call me a homosexual, don't do that. But then
Yeah.
he was never ashamed. He never like said like stop talking about it. And Leon either wasn't ashamed of being transgender. They were very upfront about it. I'm gonna use she. I know they say he, but I'm gonna use she to be respectful. But Leon, she wasn't ashamed of who she was, and she willingly told everyone. And when people were like laughing about it, she just ignored them. And I think it's just like, even now, sometimes we don't get to see that in films. Even now, we see people being ashamed of their sexuality and their queerness. But nowadays, like, people are more confident in it and they aren't ashamed. And it was very different for that time to show somebody, so not only just show somebody's sexuality, but also show them not being ashamed of it and who they are as a person.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. That's a great point. I just wanted to mention really quick that going along with what you were saying about like underlying themes of this movie, I noticed some some of what you were saying, but as well like a lot of like for example, like the people that were standing on the sidelines like watching everything happen, you know, like some of them had like either homophobic comments or like some of them were like from the gay community and like holding up posters, or like there was this one quote that I noted that said, "Watch out, he don't kiss you, Doc." Like whatever, like small homophobic comments, or like the reactions of the police officers when Leon comes in and like sits in the chair and is like explaining how she got there, all of that. And like how I like for another like small subtle thing that I noticed was that like I'm forgetting what the name of the security guard was, if anybody knows.
I know it, and now I'm just blanking on it, and I'm
I'm
sad.
also gonna do
I
it
know,
at
I
one
had it on the tip of my tongue, and then
Hold on,
Okay,
I'm,
I'm just
I'm
gonna keep
Hang
googling.
on, I think it's in my
Howard.
notes.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Howard.
okay.
Howard, yes, Howard.
You don't have to cut that out. I don't care with the fact
It's
that I
fine.
he was in there for like the first what, like 15 minutes, and then he was the first one to go, so it's not my fault. um, but I just noticed like when they like slam Howard into the cop car because they're assuming that he's the robber because he just like comes out. On a surface level, that could be just because he's the first person that comes out of the building. But on a secondary level, that could totally be racial profiling. And like it would be appropriate like for them to like have multiple layers of like awareness and like messaging, and like there was even a quote that um oh my God, Sonny said, and it was, "I speak what I feel," and like that was a pretty funny line in the movie. Because she was like, "You should really tone it down with the cursing," but he was like, "I speak what I feel." But honestly, like that's kind of like the underlying message of this whole movie and like Sonny's whole perception of things. So I feel like going back with dialogue, like it can definitely have naturalistic perspectives, but also like underlying messages and themes that make it more like realistic to the time that they were living in. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying, Kayla.
I just want to briefly touch on the camera, which is the most consistent element that follows realism.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of these smaller details that we've been talking about have been following naturalism. The camera does what you expect it to do. It doesn't do anything crazy that pulls you out of the movie. It's there, but it's just following the action, which I think is a really important thing to note, which people can talk about. But I also just want to say, if I was a police officer, that is the worst hostage negotiation I've ever gotten witnessed. What was that? What was the entire interaction between the police and Sonny? I know it's based on a real story, so that had to be what happened that day, but like, that was crazy.
I know, I saw that. I was like, who trained these people? Like,
No
who,
one. No
who
one
gave them
trained
their
these people.
jobs?
It's too
It
early for
explains a
hostage
lot.
negotiation training.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree. Camera is a huge element. And I think like what I thought was cool was when they would go to the perspective of the helicopter. I know it wasn't found footage, but it kind of looked like found footage a little bit in my head. Like it was kind of more like grainy and like lower quality and like, you know, whatever. And it was kind of like the quality that like a news channel would have, which I thought was cool. And like that kind of added to like realism, but also naturalism in a way, because it's like you're seeing it from the news channel's perspective. I also think it was cool how in the beginning they used a handheld camera from the car, and it kind of did fit in with the IMR because they were still playing music, and like you knew that it was a movie, you knew that it was an opening to a movie, but still they kind of added like that naturalistic perspective of it. But I think like other elements like I don't know why I noticed this, but when Sonny walks into the bank for the first time, like his heels for his shoes were like clicking really loud, and like I noticed that that was Foley, but like in realism, like you're not supposed to know that it's fully, but you still know that it's like a part of the film. You know, like it's still not breaking any of those rules. So just little stuff like that. And I think like the structure of like suspense and like conflict between bad and good throughout the film. Like I know we've been talking about naturalism this entire time, but just to go back to realism for a second, I think like all of those small details really make it like, you know, it has a bit of everything.
Another
also,
thing when he slid. Did you guys hear like that slide when he slid to get from when he was like running to get to the fire, the basket on fire, and he just slid, and it was like a really loud, like squeaky slide noise.
Exactly.
I had a thought. Give me a second.
Oh.
It went off as something Esther said, and now I'm not gonna remember it. That's
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
really annoying. No, it's not your. I should have remembered. I'm just a little tired. That's kind of on me.
I'm gonna read my quote and maybe that'll spark your memory.
Yeah, go for it. You read your quote. I'll have a thought
Need a
eventually.
segue, so just give me a second. Yeah. So going back to what I was saying and hopefully refreshing Ava's memory. I have a quote. It's from The Illusion of Naturalism by Andrew Saris at MIT Press, and it says, nonetheless, it's kind of a little bit of a long one, but nonetheless, film criticism is haunted by the ghost of naturalism. Too much talk, however expressive, is still considered in some quarters as alien to the visuals of the medium. And natural landscapes, however inexpressive or irrelevant, are still considered eminently cinematic. And I think that that's a good point to bring up because it's just kind of saying like people push so hard to be sometimes like naturalistic in their films, but everything is inherently still a film. And you have to realize that like even though this is very much seeming like real life, it's all very intentional. But yeah, Ava.
I almost got there. I was like, it had something to do with nature. It had something to do with the
Holy
camera.
sounds I was talking
On
about. I
the
was
tip
talking about
of
the
your fingers.
structure of suspense and the conflict between bad and good and stuff.
Oh yeah, okay. I got there.
Get it?
I
Yeah.
I think something that the movie teeters on the line of and kind of goes back to my quote is who is good and who is evil in this situation. Like Sonny's robbing a bank. He's not a good guy, but there's also moments where he's like, I don't want to hurt you, I'm a Catholic. He doesn't want to be doing it, but he needs the money. So
he has good intentions.
Sorry,
but...
that wasn't my thought, but I just remembered it. Sorry, can I just real quick?
Yeah. Go. Don't want to forget it.
My favorite character, this was so random, but it came up when you were talking about the car. My favorite character in this entire film was in it for like 2 minutes, and it was Stevie, the third guy that was supposed to be robbing the bank, who panicked, was like, I can't do this. I think we should go for something smaller. And honestly, the job should be small. This should not have been as complicated as it became.
They did not plan for this.
They did not plan for this, and honestly, I get it. I would not have planned for this either. It seemed...
I mean, it makes it feel more natural too. Just like everything, because it's unplanned and everything in the movie feels unplanned.
Yeah, and I also think why I like Stevie, there's a couple reasons. One, he got in no trouble for being involved. I don't know this case that well, but I think it's creative. I caught myself. I know I've said it a lot, but I caught myself. As almost a antithesis to Leon. That's not the right word, but I'm gonna go with it. As the polar opposite of Leon, in the way of he got in no trouble, but then and wasn't considered an accessory because he wasn't there when the police showed up. But then Leon is threatened that he will become an accessory, or she will become an accessory because they're stealing the money for her sex change surgery, which is, I'm pretty sure, not how that would work in real life. Who knows? But, and also the other reason I think that character being there is important is he's probably closer to the age that the actual bank robbers were at the time. Like, the bank robbers in reality were barely over teenagers. They were in their early 20s doing, I don't know why they were doing this in their early 20s. I mean, obviously for the money for the sex change surgery, but having two older actors but having the contrast of the younger actor is a good choice. I caught myself again, but I'm
Good job.
I wanted to also talk about a scene that was more of realism, not naturalism, because like it makes you remember, hey, this is a movie, but it's also a funny moment. But it's when they're all waiting for Sunny to make a next move and they're waiting for like the bus to get there and stuff like that. And it just pans to all the cops eating donuts. Which is just such a classic thing for cops to be eating, and like it's a classic thing for like movies for cops to be eating donuts and drinking coffee and that kind of stuff. And just like when the camera does that, like at the same time it's supposed to feel natural because we're all like haha, like cops eating donut, that's definitely what they do in the real life. But then it's like it's also like double-sided, like yeah, we know they don't really actually do that, that's just like a theme that they have in movies. And it's like a double standard of trying to be real but also we remember it's a movie because that's something we very commonly see in movies.
We were talking, I remember like in class we were talking about like the Italian like neuralist movement, and they were talking about how like usually at the end of those kind of movies like the ending wasn't like happy or anything. And I think that's definitely the case for this film. Something I like when they were in the car, like driving to the airport, like I saw Kennedy Airport and it just reminded me of like the JFK assassin. Like that's how the scene felt. Like I knew someone was going to get killed. And I honestly thought it was going to be Sunny the way they like, he was writing like a will basically saying like, give Leon this money, give Angie this money, so and so. But I guess that would be too obvious.
and also not true to the actual event.
That is true. But I, for some reason, I really thought Sunny was gonna die. But it's still not a happy ending, which I think, I guess it's real life.
I think there's also a certain level of foreshadowing. Like at the very beginning, not Sunny, Sal is like, we made a promise. If this goes wrong, we kill ourselves. And Sunny is very anti-killing himself, and Sal is like, I'm gonna do it.
And Sal also kept saying like, I'm not going to prison, I'd rather not.
That was the other point I was gonna make. Like he keeps talking about not going back to prison, so I never felt like he was gonna make it out of the movie personally. But maybe I was just reading too much into it as I was watching it. I was like, that man's gonna die.
No,
I see that now.
We'll take care of, they just kept saying we'll take care of Sal, which
yeah,
was
they
like,
also did keep threatening to kill Sal, so I was like,
they just
they're gonna
kept
kill
saying,
Sal probably.
like, you're doing good, you're listening to us, you haven't killed anyone, you're not a threat, but we're gonna kill Sal.
Yeah. I was gonna say also, we talked about in class like how a lot of naturalistic films tap into gradual anxiety instead of instant fear. And I don't think I felt instant fear throughout all of this. I don't even know if I felt gradual anxiety because it was just so insanely like messy, like to the point where I was like, this is insane. Like I can't even be like, but there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, what are they actually gonna get a plane? Like what is happening? Like are they
actually gonna pull through?
Like what? But so I think like even if it wasn't necessarily like gradual anxiety, I think that there were elements of it that were like more gradual, like you're building your way up instead of just like there's a jump scare. And like I think the jump scare would be considered like Sal getting shot maybe. But like once again, I thought that was interesting because it kind of causes the audience to like wait and like want more and like spiral a little bit. So yeah.
I also feel like this movie wasn't like, I feel like a lot of movies are fast paced while this one was more slow paced, which made it feel more natural and real. Like even like in small moments, things felt like more like at like normal pace. Like when he was catching the register on fire, I noticed it took him a few tries and like the fire wasn't instantly turning the book on fire like it would for other movies. Like the fire was slowly creeping and he was like struggling to get the entire book on fire. And there's like an awkward pause of no dialogue and him just trying to get it to light up. That was like another good moment where it didn't feel like everything was being rushed and everything was happening dramatically. It just felt natural.
I think there's also an element that is in this movie and not in a lot of other movies of distance between the actual event and then the film being made. This is just the first crime it's not even a crime, it's just like a traumatic event that happened to the country, but the first thing that's coming to mind is like 9/11. No one's made a movie about 9/11. There has to be a significant amount of distance between that crime and the movie that's being made. Why I point this out is in the end credit scene, it says that Sonny is serving 20 years in jail for his crimes, but he only served 5, so if this movie came out a couple years later, he would be out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that adds something to the movie that, like, they don't know what's happening or what is going to happen because there's not enough distance between when the crime occurs and when the movie happens.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Actually, I'm gonna check in with you, Ava, just to make sure that this isn't in there. Do you have the percentage of how much of the inspiration was taken from the story? Okay. 30% of the real story was taken for the film. I forget where I read it, but I read that 30% of...
I also read that somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna smile and nod and say
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for agreeing with me. 30%.
Okay. These trivia questions might not be that good. Just full disclosure. I did my best. Okay. Do you want me to wait or am I good?
You're good. You're good.
So question 1. What was the character choice that Al Pacino made that the director Sidney Lumet vetoed? Losing weight, taking cold showers, not sleeping at night, or growing a mustache?
I feel like they wouldn't stop him from doing something that was like as little as like taking a cold shower or growing his beard out. So I feel like it would have to be like sleeping, either A or C or whatever the 2 extreme ones were.
I feel like it might be A.
Lex?
I'll go with you, Michaela.
Okay.
He grew a mustache for this film, and Sidney Lumet was like, that looks so bad. We can't continue shooting with that. It's so ugly.
That's so funny.
So they lost a full day's worth of film because they filmed for a day with the mustache and they were like, this is not right. This is a bad character choice. But he did not sleep a lot at night and took cold showers to have like the tired but wired character traits of Sonny. 2, who was the second choice to play Sonny if Al Pacino had dropped out of the film? Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman, Robert Redford, or Burt Reynolds?
I hope it was Burt Reynolds. Have you guys seen the SNL skit about Burt Reynolds?
No.
Oh,
can you add the clip of the SNL?
Oh wait,
get copyright.
He's like on a game show. He's on a game show. It's an SNL episode. I'll send it to you guys. Don't worry.
Okay.
I want to see if Professor Mannon knows it though.
Okay, so you're guessing Burt Reynolds?
Sure, why not? I don't think that he would fit in this movie at all, but I'll guess him.
Lex?
Clint Eastwood.
I'll go with A, whatever A was. I'll just try A again.
Also Clint.
It was B, Dustin Hoffman, and Al Pacino did pull out because it was right after they had filmed The Godfather Part 2, and he was like, I can't do this film. I can't, like, I'm too depressed. I'm not in the mental state to do this film. And they're like, okay, but we're gonna hire Dustin Hoffman. And he's like, that fucker? No. I'll do this film. Because I guess they were like really big competitors at the time. So like he didn't want to give the movie to Dustin Hoffman. So that's how we got Al Pacino in the role.
So he's like in spite, is what I'm hearing.
What?
He does stuff in spite.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the last question, question 3, what was the working title of Dog Day Afternoon? Heist of Honor, The Bank Job Boys, Boys in the Bank, or Get Money Quick?
I want to say Boys in the Bank because that's
too.
It's really funny. But I'll say Get Money Quick just to not say the same thing.
It is Boys in the Bank.
Let's go.
That's a really good one. I was gonna say
time I've ever gotten a trivia question right, guys.
Good job.
Thank you.
I felt like I should give an easier one, and that title is just so good.
it is so good. It is so funny.
But they ended up doing Dog Day Afternoon because of the heat. It was just really hot that day, and I guess that was a saying in the 70s. I don't know. But I liked Boys in the Bank. I think they should have stuck with Boys in the Bank.
Okay, I'm gonna ask my question.
Go for it.
So if any of you were in the situation of robbing a bank and the cops were like, OMG, what do you want in exchange? Would you do the same thing as them and ask for a jet to go to Algeria? Or what would you do? What's your hopes in what would you ask for?
Professor,
Oh, yeah.
answer, by the way, please.
Yeah, please do. I'm interested.
I feel like I'd ask for something dumb. I feel like it would just be like something I couldn't afford because I would know that I wasn't gonna end up going home. So it'd be like really good food, probably.
That's what I was gonna say, is I'd ask for something like absurd, like basically like my last meal, but not, because I probably wouldn't end
At
up.
my death row meal, I have an entire like notes app thing on my death.
Dedicated to your death row meal.
That's a lore for
crazy.
that's a lore for today.
From S2. She got lore. She
did it unintentionally. It was accidental.
I'm gonna try and find it. I don't care if this is over the top.
Can we add it? Can we screen grab it and put it next to you?
All that I know is that there's Dr. Pepper somewhere on there.
Dr. Pepper is a good choice.
It's the best soda, like hands down.
Did you know if you send your wedding like invitation to Dr. Pepper, they'll send you like their merch back?
I feel like that should work for graduations too.
I have a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert.
Oh my god, please send that to the group chat.
Please send that so I can.
Then I want to add it into the video, just like right next to her.
Okay.
Sorry, Lex, go for it.
I know. I mean, I feel like I would ask for money.
That you would never be able to use, like the one.
Or like I could give it to my family or something.
But they wouldn't get the money.
Well, if I asked them for the, I don't know.
Let Lex live their dream.
Okay, sure. I just feel like it should be something you can enjoy in the moment.
We didn't criticize. Well, I agree with you, but Lex didn't criticize you.
Or like,
what would your favorite food be actually? To like, what would you want to eat?
A chicken sandwich.
No clue. I feel like it would be like,
or like Raising Cane's.
It would not be that for me. I feel like it would be like a fancy restaurant, but not too fancy where the courses are like super small, like where you can get like a substantial meal, but it would be like thousands of dollars still.
High quality.
You know where I got to go to one time?
I'm just gonna answer a question.
Oh, sorry. This is like so off topic. I got to go to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. I would go there actually. Yeah, not Hell's Kitchen, but I went to like one of his restaurants. It was actually so cool. It was really, really good. It was like the best steak I've ever had. You can include that in the video if you want.
Oh, two of my death row meal ones are from specific restaurants on Staten Island where I used to live, so don't worry. I'm all for the niche meals here.
Okay, what would you ask for, Esther?
Am I going over this right now, or should I just?
No. What would you ask for the cops?
Oh, that.
This is what you'd ask for? We can just screen grab it. You can just say this list, and we'll screen grab that and add it next to you.
Oh, me, baby. And I would eat that, and then I'd be like, all right, take me away. All I need is some good food because, like...
that prison meal is going to be shit.
Yeah,
so
you want
to get a good meal before you go to prison.
Exactly. Thank you. Everybody here gets it. Okay.
I'd also ask to, for puppies to be brought in. I feel like that's the other thing I would do.
Very therapeutic.
If I was about to go to prison, I'd be like, I'm not gonna see a dog for a hot minute. That's not trying to.
I love how none of us said our family or friends. That's really.
No, you can call those. Yeah, you can call them.
You can
need to see that.
Visitation hours.
Just hey, you can see me in prison, but you can't bring me some fancy $100 food item. You're not gonna bring me that.
I would say this guy. I would say this and Harry Styles. Those are my two. Bring me Harry Styles, and then we'll talk.
Thank you for watching. Next video to be determined if we have another one. I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
I'll be very sad if we don't. I know you'll all miss our great videos, and by all I mean Professor Manon.
And those 4 people who continuously watch our videos.
I know.
There are 4 people who keep watching.
I'm loving the fans.
Yeah, fans. If you're watching this, just randomly comment. We want to know who you are.
Please.
Real yourselves.
It's just the other screen professors. Spoiler alert.
Right. Like and subscribe.
Okay, well, where are their answers? Oh.
It's still only Lex. Only Lex gets it.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe, please. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.